didn't know why I had to go, but I went. And junior and senior year, I took John Allen's class, and like he really helped me see, you know, like the truth of the Catholic Church and why the church is like good and holy, and you know why like being Catholic is important, and that really like essentially it's just like following God's plan for your life. And so I had like a really big conversion my senior year of high school, and then I was like wanted to go to Catholic school, but I had already committed junior year. I committed to go to Shenandoah University for lacrosse, and so I didn't really have. I had like a little bit of a choice because it's only like a verbal commit because it's like D3, so I didn't have to actually sign anything. But I like still kind of wanted to go there. Didn't really know. So I went to Shenandoah, and I was like, yeah, this is gonna be great. Like, I'll really stay strong in my faith. You know, I'm gonna go to daily mass. I'm gonna like pray all the time. Like, have, you know, my friends, you know, they might not all be Catholic, but like that's fine. You don't have to have Catholic friends, you know, to be Catholic. But it definitely helps to have Catholic friends. So I went there with this mindset of like going to mass all the time and like praying all the time, and that like nothing was ever gonna happen and it was all gonna be like fine. But that was like not the reality of it at all. Like, I went to mass on Sundays, but I mean, like sometimes I had to miss because I had lacrosse, and like they didn't understand like why I had to go to mass, because even the people there that did go to church on Sunday, they were Protestant. Protestants don't really have to go to church on Sunday, whereas like in the Catholic Church, it's a mortal sin if you don't go. But also the people that I surrounded myself with, just like didn't understand why I was Catholic. They didn't understand the value in being Catholic. One of my friends like told me blatantly like that she wouldn't buy into all the stuff that religion is. She just thought it was stupid. Pretty much all my friends thought that everything that I based my life on was really stupid, which is really hard to, you know, like go in thinking you're gonna do great, like, and like, yeah, I'm gonna like pray all the time, it'll be great, and then like having that reality of it's not as easy as you thought. So I didn't really pray a lot. I went to mass on Sundays, but that was about it. But it was also really hard because it was hard to like keep my morals, because everyone else, like, they didn't really, like, they had morals, but like theirs are a lot like less strict, I guess, in a sense that mine were, and just like what they would let themselves do. And that was like, I found that out like very quickly too. But it was also really hard because I was like, oh well, yeah, I'm not gonna go out and like drink with you guys all the time and like get drunk and like hook up with people and stuff like that. And they thought that was like weird, and like really crazy that I wasn't gonna do that. But they also like didn't want me to, which I found like kind of shocking too. It was like all my friends, they realized that like I had something they didn't have. And they would always ask me like, why are you smiling? Why are you happy? Like all the time. And it always like baffled me that they asked me that, and I never really had a good answer either. I was like, I don't know, I'm happy, I guess. But like it was more than that. It was like this peace, and I don't know why. Like it was a gift from God, but you know, there was no reason. I don't know, it was just like, it baffled me that they could see that too. And they would always ask me that question, and they recognized it. And then I also started throughout the year like recognizing a lot of things in them too, of just like how their choices in like what they were doing just really hurt them, like really, really deeply. And they all had like a lot of really deep wounds, whether they realized it or not, like where they weren't okay with themselves. And you know, it's hurting them and it was hurting the people around them. And I just hated seeing that in them because I loved them. They were my friends, you know, like you don't want to see your friends hurt. But they answer like they wouldn't like my answer, you know, like the answer is like, you know, you love God and you give God your life, and you'll feel like you'll understand that you have worth and that you have dignity and all these things. But because they were like shutting off the source of that dignity, they didn't see it in themselves that like they had that like dignity that they have, like, no matter in what stage of life, wherever they are, whatever they're doing, and they just didn't see that, and it like hurt them. But yeah, so that was like really like crazy, like that year, just like seeing how much like people don't notice their own self-value. And so going through freshman year, I like finished the year out. Thought I was gonna go back. It was like really hard on me because I just felt like I was always trying to like be there for them, be there for everybody, and I couldn't mess up either. So they all like didn't want me to mess up either. They had this image in their minds that I was like perfect, and that was really, really hard for me because like if you mess up, it's like okay, you know, like you realize, yeah, like I messed up, that's fine. But when like you have an idea in your head of like I have to be perfect, and then everyone else has that like expectation for you too, it becomes like so much harder to like hold yourself to that, because then when you fall, you're like a hypocrite and you're, you know, not to be trusted because, well, she's just as bad as us, and I am like completely, but you know, like no one saw that, and it was like really hard. And so I came back to St. John's like the summer after that, and I just like saw that in my friendships, like a lot of things, like they like really, like a lot of my friends like really, really hated the Catholic Church. And so that was kind of like weird always being around them, and then coming back to a place where it's just like, yeah, like this is who we are, and like this is how we live, and everyone's just joyful and happy. And I just wanted like to be in a place where like everyone was happy, you know, like I don't know, I feel like everybody wants that, you know, you just like want to be around like happy people and like people who like know that they matter. Like obviously my friends knew that they mattered, but they didn't like know like deeply, you know what I mean? Like there's that like level of like, yeah, like obviously I'm going to take care of myself, but then there's like a deeper level, I guess. And so that summer I decided to transfer to Franciscan, and it was really scary. Like at first I was like, oh yeah, like this will be great, you know, Sarah's there and Caitlin's there, like it'll be awesome, I'm really excited. And then it got like really hard. I was like, I don't know, like I'm gonna know 2 people like going into the school. Like I did David too, like I'll know like 2-3 people going into school, you know, like, but that's it. I'm gonna come in as a sophomore, everybody's gonna think I'm a freshman, I'm gonna be behind in school, and I just, all these like thoughts building up, and it was like really, really hard. But I'm so glad that I went, and I'm so glad that I decided to transfer. And I got there, and it was definitely like challenged me a lot because my friends hold me accountable now, you know, like in everything. Like obviously we're like not like super strict or anything, but like my friends like love me, and they're like, no, we don't want to see you fail. But it's also really fun too. Like I have my household and my lacrosse team, and they've just like helped me see like God in everything, and to like recognize that like, yeah, I play lacrosse for like God's glory and not my own. That's like a huge lesson I've learned this year. It's just like playing for God instead of for myself, whereas everywhere else it was like playing for myself and like just being like, oh, you want to be the MVP of this game, you want to be like win this award and like do these things and get that scholarship and like all of this stuff. And now like I play for God, and that like it's hard, but it's like so much more rewarding. And so I've definitely learned a lot of lessons at Franciscan, and and also it's just like a better, like it just has helped me so much to like see my friends like have helped me like when I'm down too, you know, and I don't think I had that my freshman year. I just like, yeah, I definitely like my friends like help me when I'm down, and they notice when I'm like upset, and they can like help me and like love me in a way my friends my freshman year couldn't, because like they weren't there yet. And so yeah, I'm at Franciscan now, and it's great. And there's just like a really great community that I have now. So yeah, I don't know what else.
I want to start off with I'm going to start off just a really quick prayer to the Holy Spirit just to help guide, our hearts and our minds as we focus on what I have to say. So really quickly, just bow our heads in prayer, just in silence, praying to the Holy Spirit. So we say, come, Holy Spirit. Come, Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, we ask you that you open our hearts and our minds to what I have to say today. Bless my words. Holy Spirit, guide what I have to say so that I may impact at least one life here and whatever Holy Spirit has to say today. Guys, we stay attentive, stay awake just for the next few minutes. And we come away knowing that we are truly loved as beloved sons and daughters of God. Amen. Okay, so what I'm about to share with you guys is a story of my own little life, okay? It's insignificant. There's 7 billion others out in the world. There's many more before that. But to me, this life is significant because it was given to me as a gift, right? All of our lives are a gift. So I'm going to share that to you today because I want to show you how great this gift was to me. Who can tell me, when we were reading Genesis 2 and 3, it says that mankind, men and women were created in the image and likeness of God. Well, who can tell me what that means, to be made in the image and likeness of God?
To be like Him.
How are you like God? How are all of us like God?
We think for ourselves and we make our own choices.
Excellent. So free will and intellect. Those are two really, really important things. And love to a certain extent. Because love and the idea of compassion and caring for, you can see that in animals when mothers take care of the children. But we can love each other in a more intimate way, the way God loves us, through the sacrifice when we sacrifice ourselves and our time and things like that for each other. So we are like God in 3 ways. Free will, being able to choose God. Intellect, being able to think for ourselves. Make that choice, a conscious choice between good and evil, and also to love unconditionally. And as we know, our purpose, as it says in the Catechism, our full purpose as human beings being made in the image and likeness of God is to use those 3 things, how we are like God, for the greater glory of God, to know Him through our intellect, to love Him through the love that we were given unconditionally, and to serve Him through our free will. Okay, so this is very, very important to remember as I give you this talk. I've given this talk a lot. I'm not going to do it as long as I usually do, because we're trying to get Kaylin in here as well. But what I have to share to you is very, very important. It's dear to me. This is my life I'm sharing with you guys, okay? And you guys are to a certain extent not like kids anymore. So I'm going to be prudent, but I also want to share with you my experiences to show how great God is when He's overcome these obstacles, but also how He's exemplified these 3 likenesses of God through my life. So, starting off, I am number 4 of 8 kids. I grew up in a big Catholic family, right? And it was like Catholic to the core, right? We went to Mass every day. We were homeschooled. So we had the opportunity to go to Mass every day. We prayed the Rosary every day. I went to confession once a week. It was hardcore stuff. And we were homeschooled, so we almost never left home, right? So it's almost like my mom locked us up in our rooms, just to pray and to read holy saint books. I could quote you the Catechism, I could quote you the Bible, and all these different things, because it was impounded into my head, right? You know what I mean? And the faith was very much my parents, and as we grew up, guys, like our parents, whether they gave us the faith or it was fostered elsewhere, there's a certain time of our life where we have to take that upon ourselves. And maybe that opportunity for you is here at summer camp, or maybe it's in school, or maybe it's in church. But there's a certain point where we're told a lot of things, we hear a lot of things, and we can say consciously within ourselves, like, oh, I want to do this. But that has to come from your free will, to first to know God, in which I'm talking to you. I'm talking through my word of mouth. I'm talking to you about God. But then in the conviction of your hearts, going in adoration, saying that you love God, and then serving Him through your free will out in the world, right? Well, for me, I had a lot of head knowledge, right? It was all up here. There was no love and no conviction in my heart. I couldn't honestly say I'd prayed from my heart in probably the first 16 years of my life. I went to Mass every day, sure, and I put on the facade. I went to youth group like my parents asked, because they ran the youth group. You know what I mean? I went to all the retreats. I went to Steubenville retreats growing up. And Mount 2000, some of you have been to Mount 2000. I did all those things, and it was great. I did what my parents wanted, but it was never alive in my heart. I was never convicted. I was never convinced of the love that God was sharing to me, for me, through the sacrament of the Mass, through confession, the mercy that's offered there, and an adoration, just being pierced by the divinity of the Eucharist. And so growing up like that, it gives you a little hard time, because there comes a point where we have to take this, like I said, upon ourselves. And that point never came for me. And when we aren't convinced of the love that God has for us, we feel this emptiness inside. And we as human beings, we're very familiar with that void, right? We were kind of created with that hole inside of us. And so we constantly try to fill it up with different things. We were very good as human beings at trying to fill up that void, right? Well, I was given a very special cross. From when I was a very young age, like I was probably 12 years old, was probably like when it was like completely like almost like addicted. But by this time, between like the ages of like 7 and 12, pornography had leaked into my life, as well as the sin of masturbation. And this for me was the wantingness, the filling of the void, because as a middle kid, I was typical. I didn't get a lot of attention. You know what I mean? I would cry out for my mom or my siblings to come play with me, but nothing ever seemed to satisfy that. So I kind of tried to fill this void, this kind of wantonness, the kind of the feeling of it disguises itself as pleasure, but for me it was this wantingness, this completion. You know what I mean? We as individuals, want to be completed in a way. And so we fill it up with at a small time. I was 12 years old. At the time, it was just this little thing. But as I grew older, it became more and more, because it was never enough, right? It was like filling the void. It was like an empty well, like a bottomless well. So we keep filling and filling and filling. And as I got older, it turned into a lot worse, because what I thought was completion was rather a emptying of myself. And I started feeling worthless because I was told it was wrong. I told, pornography, distorts your mind, and it's a disfigurement, and it's a disordered act, as it says in the Catechism. And so this feeling and being told to myself that I was worthless, that, if you sin, God can't love you like that, because, when you fall into the way of sin, the ways of the world, God can't love someone so sinful as that. So by the time I was probably 14, which was probably, what was it, like 8th grade? Is that 8th grade? No, that's freshman. I had started just a lot of self-hate. Feeling I'm worthless. In my parents' eyes, I felt like I wasn't worth anything, because I wasn't like my other siblings. My other siblings were saints, right? And so this self-hate and this like depression almost came over me through anxiety. And I wasn't diagnosed until later, but I ended up becoming like severely depressed, as well as overcoming anxiety at a very early age. And this manifested itself in many different ways. In the same way where I found completion in physical things through my eyes and through my actions, so too in the same way did my self-hate manifest itself through cutting. And by the time I was a sophomore in high school, 15, 16 years old, I had been addicted to pornography, addicted to masturbation, and addicted to cutting. I would wear long sleeves and do whatever I had to do to disguise myself. And again, I put on the facade. I went to the retreats, the youth groups. And during all this time, I've been going to daily mass. I've been going to confession. I've been experiencing what I was told was this manifestation of new life. But I hadn't felt it with my heart. It was all up here. I knew it all, but there was no conviction in my heart. I was never shown through actions of others or by the individuals that I was surrounded with that, my life was worth living, even though I was struggling with these things. So by the time I was sophomore year in high school, the masturbation pornography wasn't enough anymore. So I started, it was in a relationship with this girl who struggled a lot in the same way I did. To be honest, now I think about it, I think it was a lot more. She struggled with that understanding and that completion as well. And so, like, put together, we were like this, like, poisonous, like, nothing could grow. It was like dead soil, you know what I mean? And nothing could grow from that. So we gave ourselves to each other in an impure way. And through this, again, we thought it was completion through the physical and through the visual, right? But at the same time, I've been physically going to Mass, and I've been visually, experiencing the Eucharist through adoration. But for me, that wasn't enough. It didn't suffice for me. I needed something more, right, to fill that void. Sophomore year in high school, I will never forget this day as long as I live. It was March. It was right before the summer, and I'd been planning to go to Brazil for World Youth Day. I wasn't looking forward to it. It was whatever. But it was March before that year, and my girlfriend was over, and I didn't think anyone was home, right? We're in my bedroom, not doing so great things. And I remember And then it was like a blur, because all I remember is we were in there, and no one was home. Like, I was convinced no one was home. I was very good. I've been hiding it since I was like 11, 12 years old. My father. You have to understand my dad. He is probably like at the time he looked 6'4". He was like a John Cena. He was huge, and he's like bald or whatever. And he busts through the door of my bedroom. He push it down. He barges in there, and he sees me and my girl in bed. Right? And how embarrassing is that? I mean, like, it's one thing to fall into that sin, but it's another thing to be caught in it. Because then the shame and the guilt and everything that had been built up to this point was brought to the light. And I guarantee you, if any of you have seen Spider-Man 3, the terrible one with Tobey Maguire, when the Venom, when he's brought to the light with the bell is ringing, the church bell, and it's like a shrieking. That's kind of what I felt like. It was like the shrieking, like my darkest, things that I kept away from everyone else. I was so good at hiding it. Those darkest things off to the corner, it was shown the light. And I shrieked. I was exposed. There was nothing more I could hide anymore. Everything was found out. The scars in my arms, the addictions, everything that I've been struggling with up to that point, my dad found when he came in there. And I remember he dragged the girl out of the room, left me in there, locks the door, and he leaves. And he doesn't come back for hours. And I remember just screaming at him. Because he exposed me. This was my secret. He wasn't supposed to know about this. I go to the summer camps. I work with the kids. I go to church. I do all the right things. I know it up here. This is my own. This is my own facade. This is my own thing. It doesn't bother anything else. But I was exposed. But why? And I realized that day that it wasn't my dad who so much found me, but it was God who was reaching out. And he says, you can't get away from me. You can't get away from me. You're made in my likeness. You're just like me. And I'm going to find you. And he did. My dad comes back, and like I said, John Cena, I just expect him to just to pound me, But he doesn't pound me. I just remember I'm screaming at him. I'm 16 years old. He comes and he takes me, and I'm like in the fetal position. He takes me, he holds him close to his chest. And he says, Josh, like, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. I'm screaming that my eyes, tears are pouring down my face. That was the first time in my life where I experienced a merciful God. A loving God. And up to this point, love and God weren't equal. God was this big master who said all these no's. This book is filled with no's. That's what it was to me. And I was like, well, if that wasn't exposed, then maybe it won't be that bad. But here was a God who saw me in my ugliness, who saw me in my realness of all my mistakes and everything up to this point which I had done. And he still loved me. He told me it was going to be okay. It didn't add up. And so, after that point, my dad ends up leaving. And for the first time in my life, I actually prayed. And I knelt down at my bed. And there was a crucifix there. My mom put them everywhere in every room. And I actually prayed for the first time. And I still remember the prayer. It was the most cliche prayer you could pray. But it was the Matt Maher song, Lord, I Need You. And I just prayed that. Because I didn't know what else to say. I've been praying my whole life. But up to this point, it wasn't real. And all my heart could say at that moment was, Lord, I need you. I need you, because everything up to this point, my void is empty. And so that summer, I went to Brazil, and we did some missionary work in Argentina. And it was my first time out of the country, but what I experienced on that mission trip was life-changing for me. Because I was put in an orphanage for boys for about 2 weeks. And there, I couldn't speak any Spanish, but I got to love these boys in the way where they needed me. And I was able to give them, shelter. I was able to give them food. I played soccer with them with this like garbage kind of ball, And I was able to love them. And to me, love wasn't about orphan boys in South America. For me, it was the physical pleasures. For me, it was the completion, of another individual. But I experienced a different kind of love that day. I experienced the love of the Father and the love of his beloved kids, the kids that we service to, guys, at summer camp. We get back senior year, and I realize, I get back junior year, and I actually, thanks be to God, I was recruited by the minor seminary in Minnesota, where Jesse's brother's going this year. And it was an amazing experience because I got to really plant my foundation of my faith, firmly in the ground, and say I'm able to look at the Eucharist and accept the love that He has for me. But it doesn't make the journey easier. I still had my struggles, still had my addictions. It doesn't just go away. But through the constant coming back to prayer, constant coming back to adoration, constant coming back to Mass, and saying, even though that I feel like I feel dirty, I feel like through the sins that I've committed, I'm not worthy to go to Mass, I'm not worthy to receive communion, I'm not worthy to receive, confession. God can't possibly love me. To still go in adoration, which we do every day, and look at the Eucharist and say, you know what, He loves me. He loves me so much that He's willing to get into the dirt with me and pull me out. Because that's what happened, that's what I experienced. And even though I may not have gone as far, but I still struggle. I still struggle as I did then. And through this experience, I know within myself and my heart that it's not only up here that we get to experience God, but it's through the conviction of our hearts, through the service of what we are as human beings to others. So after my junior year, I was asked to leave, and I went home because I had a lot of mending to do with my family. But my family were loving, and they took me back in. And then by the end of my senior year, I didn't know what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? I thought I knew, but I don't know. I didn't have that many gifts and talents. I've been pouring myself into sinful habits and ways my entire life. I had no idea how I could serve God in any way. But I thought back to my sophomore year and that experience that I had with my dad. And I was like, if I were to ever experience anything that God may want from me, whatever it might be, it has to be in a place where I know I can hear Him. Because before I was running away. I like to think of God, maybe everyone has a favorite image of Jesus in their minds, but one of my favorite is the Good Shepherd. Because I always feel like I'm that one sheep out of the 99, like it says in that parable in the Gospels, where that one sheep, goes wandering. I always feel like that one sheep, you know what I mean? Because I'm always surrounded by holy and beautiful people. I always feel like that one sheep just wandering, and Jesus with his little shepherd staff, He always takes me by the neck and reels me back. Come on, you guys come back here. Well, one of the actually favorite things that we know about the shepherds back in those days is what they would do when these lambs would go wandering. What the shepherds would do, they'd find them and they'd break their legs. They would actually take their legs and break them, and then they would put them on top of their shoulder, bring them back to the rest of the herd, and have them lay right in front of the shepherd. That way, through the healing of the legs, the lamb knew to be with the shepherd. For me, I've had my legs broken. My dad broke down my door that day. And ever since then, I've been next to the shepherd. And even though I may go wandering from time to time, I'm always recall what it was like to be back with the shepherd. And that for me is the conviction within my heart. Now, how can I serve? I know I love, and now how can I show? Being at Franciscan, for me, is an opportunity to do just that. My freshman year, I was picked to do, they have missions. And there was a mission going to Belize, which is in South America. And I gave my testimony, this story that I'm telling you guys now, to about 500 kids, high school kids, who by the time they were in 8th grade, their entire family would be addicted to alcohol, sex, and many forms of drugs. And that's 8th grade, and that's everywhere. And the only exposure they don't have to that or to anything other than that lifestyle is through the school in which they went to. And so I had the opportunity to share that, even though we may all be experiencing this, no matter where you are in your journey, whether it be as graphic or as horrible as this may have been, no matter how far you stray from the light, the door will always open. And I want to share with you this Bible verse that I've picked up. It was a gospel a few weeks ago. But for me, it kind of spoke out. So if anyone, maybe here, maybe struggling with any sort of addiction or any sort of filling of the void, whatever it might be, just know that, first of all, you're loved. That's 100%. There's nothing you could do. There's literally nothing you could do, first of all, to lose that love in which you experience in the Eucharist, but also nothing you can do to gain that love. You're loved, period, because you're made in the image and likeness of God. You can't change that. That's who you are. So first of all, you need to know that. And through that conviction, I want you to hear this, because without truly knowing that, all this means nothing, all right? So listen to this with a heart full of love, remember? So another parable He put before them, saying, "The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a man who sowed good seed in his field. And while men were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among them and went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, then the weeds appeared also. And the servants of the householder came and he said to them, Sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then has it weeds? He said to them, An enemy has done this. The servants said to them, Then do you want us to go and gather them? But he said, No, lest in gathering the weeds you root up the wheat along with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And at the harvest time I will tell the reapers, Gather the weeds first and bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn. Guys, we're good seed. You know, God's the sower, and he sowed us into good soil. Like I said before, like I felt like in that relationship when I was 16, it was like dead soil, right? I was good seed, though. Even though I may have been bad soil, I was good seed. And I didn't believe that within my heart. I knew it up here, but it wasn't convicted in here. I am good seed. We're all good seed. An enemy may have come and planted weeds among us. May have poisoned and destroyed the soil in which we were planted in. But through patience, knowing that we're convicted that we were loved by our Heavenly Father, we will grow to be good seed. And when the time comes, in which we all hope to achieve one day when it comes to heaven, in our mission as human beings, God is going to wipe away any sort of sorrow, any sort of addiction, any sort of tribulation, any sort of obstacle, and bring us into his heavenly kingdom. So convicted of this, knowing in our hearts that we're called to love, to be loved, and to know that we are loved, so too can we do to others. Thank you.
We're going to do one last talk. It'll run a little bit long today, but last chance to hear Caleb before she speaks.
Thanks, Jack. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of like tell you guys, I don't know, like a bit about me and like my faith journey and everything that I've had over the years. One of the main things, or I guess I'm just gonna like say this early, but like the main things that I want to talk about are like when I went to Franciscan and when I went to World Youth Day Brazil. So growing up, like I grew up in a Catholic family, like we've gone to St. John's for years. I went to St. John's school, like it was all great. But when I left St. John's in 8th grade, I was like, you know what, like I want to go to high school and like I want to be fun, like go do like I want to be like a cool cheerleader, like I want to do all these fun things, like I want to be popular. And I was like, I like am totally gonna throw my faith out the window. Like that was my plan. Like I had the plan to just like get rid of the faith, and like I don't know why, I just did. But then like when I got, so the summer between 8th and 9th grade like was the first year that camps started. So I volunteered at the camps, and I was like, wow, this is fun, like I like this, cool. And so I started like, I got a lot more involved just like throughout the youth group and everything. So by the time freshman year actually hit, I was like, no, like, you know what, I don't know what it is, I don't know like what exactly I'm doing, but I know like there's something there. So I was like, you know what, like I found like great friends in my high school. I was like, wow, like these people, like one of my best friends is like pulling me closer to Christ, like challenging me every day. But nothing was really like, not that nothing was growing, but like I wasn't like moving forward, and I wanted to move forward, but I didn't really know how. And I was like, yeah, like I'll go to daily mass when I'm at work, or like I'll, you know, go to mass with my family, but I was never taking those steps on my own to like grow in my faith on my own and like really making it my own. I kind of just did whatever my family was doing that day. So I honestly don't know how it happened. Grace of God, like I ended up in Argentina and Brazil for the month-long trip with the SSVM for World Youth Day, and it was amazing. Just like being in that community, like being with the sisters and the brothers and like such a large group of people who like daily were searching like, hey, like I want to grow in holiness, and like having that community. Other than St. John's, like I had never had that before. Like other than the camps, I had never had that before. And like while the camps were amazing, just for me, like that kick that I needed in the butt was World Youth Day, and like being able to be there and be like, wow, like one, like people are seeking this out on their own. Like they're not just doing it when they're at work. And that's just something really important that like I realized there, and I was like, I want that. Like I want to learn how to do that. So when I came back from World Youth Day Brazil, I mean, like you can ask Rich, like he was like, go to Argentina for a month, and I was like, oh, okay, like sure. So like my older brother and I went, but like when we came back, like there was a visible difference just like in how we were going about our faith. Like we were like, you know what, like we want to do this. So that was the summer going into my junior year of high school. So junior and senior year of high school was pretty normal again. Like, yeah, that was a great trip, and it kind of like pushed me to like really start like, you know, praying on my own a little more and like doing things like that, like, you know, like actually focusing like on my relationship with God. But it still wasn't like, it wasn't there. Like I was doing it. Like summers were a highlight because it's easier in the summer. Leonardtown, I had good friends, but like it's different. You didn't have those friends like pushing you daily to like become a saint. Like you didn't have those friends who were like striving with you to be a saint. So going into senior year of high school, I was like picking colleges and like looking at things. Going into junior year, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start looking at colleges because my older brother was. And Sarah Shack was organizing a trip to Franciscan, and she was like, do you want to come? And I had never heard about Franciscan before the World Youth Day trip, and everyone kept calling it Steubenville, but like I thought they were saying Stupidville, and I was really confused, and I was like, what are you guys talking about? Like I really don't know. But when Sarah brought it up, I was like, sure, why not? Like, let's go. So I went, and that trip, like as soon as I got there, I stayed with a host in one of the dorms overnight, and like she just started talking to me about like different things on campus, and like I texted my mom the next morning like immediately, and I was like, this is where I want to go. Like I want to go here. I hadn't looked at the campus. I didn't even know if they had the major I was interested in, like nothing. Like I had no idea about anything, but I was like, yep, like I think I'm supposed to be here. So I did the visit there was amazing. It was great. I came home again. I told my parents like I really want to go here, but I also knew like I was a junior in high school. Like then I had all of junior year and senior year to continue to look at schools, and I did. And I ended up looking at a bunch of other schools. Franciscan was expensive, and so that made it really easy to like look at other schools. Be like, you know what, like this is a great school, and this would be like ideal school, but like maybe I can't do it. So I ended up picking a college in Florida. I went to Flagler College in St. Augustine, Florida, and I was ready. I kind of just spurred the like moment. I was like, you know what, I'm tired of this. Like I'm tired of not knowing what school I'm gonna go to. I'm gonna go to Flagler, and I went. And that summer before I left, I was at work here, and everyone was like, Caitlin, like don't go to Flagler, like don't go. And I was like, no, it'll be fine. Like I got this. And they're like, no, really, like don't go. Like we want what's best for you. Like we want you to be in a community where you can be like constantly growing with people who are also striving for sainthood. And I was like, no, it's okay. Like I'll get involved with the Catholic groups on campus. Like I'll go to mass. Like there's like, you know, there's a church like right down the street. It'll be great. It'll be awesome. And then I got down there, and it was not great. It was not awesome. It was honestly like, it was at that point in my life, it was like the hardest 2 months I'd ever done. And it was ridiculous because I got down there and I was like, you know what, like I know someone who knows someone in the Catholic group at Flagler, like I'm gonna go meet them and it'll be great. But I texted her and she's like, I'm not part of that anymore. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I like went and I like met the girls there, and they were like good, you know what I mean? Like, but when it's a very, very small group and like such a large school, it wasn't a large school, but like in the larger community, it was harder to see that and be like, this is good. Like, this is like what I can survive on for the next 4 years and like make lifelong friends. At Flagler, my roommates, I don't really want to get too much into it because it's a lot, but Flagler campus had a lot of hard drugs. A lot of hard drugs, like a lot of just like partying all the time. And I was like, you know what, like college, everybody parties, like I get that. But like when there's cocaine and acid in my dorm because of my roommates, like no, that's not normal. Like that's just not. My roommates hooked up with each other in my dorm. Like I had 3 roommates and me, so there were 4 of us in one room, and they were like hooking up in our room and like all of these crazy things. But one thing that like really stood out to me when I was down there, and I think I had been toying with it even after like day 2 of being there. I was like, I don't think I can be here for the next 4 years. I don't even think I can be here for the next 4 days. Like, what am I doing? But one of my roommates came up to me. She was incredibly drunk. I'm pretty sure she was high. She was like waiting for her drug dealer to bring her acid. Like there was a lot going on. And she just like, I was doing homework in my room, like waiting to go like do something with one of my friends. And she just looked at me and she was like, Caitlin, like I'm so jealous. Like I wish that I could like hold my morals and like principles, I'm so far gone, I don't think I can do that anymore. And it broke my heart because like she could have, you know what I mean, like in that community it was hard because that's what she's always been surrounded by. She's never been surrounded by people who were there to love her and there to like truly love her and look out for her and like help her, you know, like grow and be healed, because like she just felt so alone from all the scars and like damages she's had in her life. And then she just like looked at me and was like, I don't know how to do that. Like, I don't know how to be happy. She looked at me, she's like, please, whatever you do, do not lose that. And like the next day she was again like making fun of me or whatever for like, you know, not going out, like not doing drugs. But like as much as they were like making fun or like poking her, like she doesn't do that, they also like had a level of like wow, like admiration, like, you know what, like I don't know how to be happy. And I'm not saying like, woo, look at me, I was great, because definitely no, like I wasn't, like I was struggling every day with like my own things. But like seeing that broke my heart because she just felt that she didn't know how to get to that place ever again. And one of the things, I don't know if Brittany and I were talking earlier and we have like a few similar things, but when she but like when I was down there, like I just had like this such an overwhelming like feeling that people needed me to be a certain way, because like they had that admiration for me, but like that just became too much because they were like, you know what, like she's perfect, ignore her, like she's not gonna mess up, she's not gonna do that, don't worry about it, she's great, she's fantastic. But like when you have your own, like if you're keeping yourself to your own standard and other people are keeping you to a higher standard that they're not holding themselves, like it is hard to like grow and push yourself to like be at that standard, because you're the only one doing it and everyone's expecting you to do it, everyone's wanting you to do it, you want to do it for yourself. But if you're the only one in a community of people who aren't, like that was hard. So like a month and a half in, like I called my parents and like I called like Rich and I was like, I need to be out of here now, like I have to leave. And my parents came down that weekend, and I think Jack came down, and like packed up all my stuff. And like I told my friends that like sort of friends that I had met that semester, I told them like the day before I left, I was like, I'm leaving tomorrow and I'm not coming back, like ever. And I did, I left. And when I came up, I didn't have a plan. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I needed to get out of there. So when I left, I told them all that I got accepted with like a late scholarship to my number one choice school, which was Franciscan. But at that point I had known like there was no way I was getting there, like money wise, like scholarship wise, like I knew like it just wasn't gonna happen. But I told them all that because I was like, this is the best thing, like excuse I can come up with without like being like weird with leaving. So I was like, I'm going. So I got home and I sat there and I was like, crap, like I don't know what I'm gonna do, like I don't know what school I'm going to next semester, I don't know if I'm going to school next semester, like I don't know where God wants me. Like I realized like I picked Flagler just like for fun, like not for fun, but like just like because I could. And like it was pretty, it was nice there. I love St. Augustine, so I was like, the school can't be that bad, like I can put up with the people, like it'll be fine. But like no, like I realized I couldn't, like that community was not one I could grow in. So we did a trip to Franciscan again, and I ended up there, like, and it was amazing. Like I ended up being able to go to Franciscan that spring semester, and through that, like I've grown so much, but also like I was so incredibly like blessed to be able to go there that semester and to continue going, because there's such a difference. There's such a difference between the two schools. And like one thing that I want to highlight like about like any of the like the really good schools that like obviously we all promote is like they're great schools. They give you so many opportunities to grow in holiness. But again, like they give you the opportunities. You going there does not mean like, yes, you are holy, you are great, like you're gonna be great. It's like no, like you have to act, like you still have to seek out holiness. You still have to like go to the masses, even though they offer 3, like, oh, I actually have to go to 1. Like you have to be doing the things that they offer to like help you grow, and like it just gives you a better community. So like sisterhood is something that like I've never done before. I have 2 brothers and mainly guy cousins and neighbors and stuff. So like I had never done sisterhood. So like households, wow, that's a lot of girls. Okay, like let's go in sisterhood. So like the opportunities that Franciscan's given me to grow as a person is one like that I wouldn't have gotten anywhere else. I like truly believe that like me going to Franciscan that spring semester, while as hard as Flagler was, like I'm okay with having gone there, because I ended up at Franciscan. And if I had gone to an okay school to where it's like, you know what, I can do this for 4 years. Like, it's not bad, it's not great, like, it's just okay. Like, I don't think I would have left there. I probably would have sat there for, like, 4 years. But, like, being able to have gone to Flagler and then coming home and, like, being, like really just, like, showing my parents, like, I know what I need now. Like, I know I need a community that's going to help me grow closer to God. I know I'm going to be with people who are going to, like, strive to be saints. Because if you don't have that, it's a lot harder to continue to push yourself to grow in that way. So just, like, being able to be there and being able to, like, make the friendships that I have through Franciscan and everything has just honestly, like, been, like, the biggest blessing. And, yeah, that's all.